parable of self-mastery, the Avatar. In the town of Four Winds, where the seasons met and quarreled without end, there lived a man named Sammie. He was not remarkable by birth nor by fortune. He lived alone in a modest house of stone and timber, and his days passed like the slow turning of a wheel: work, eat, sleep, and wonder. Sammie was a man of questions, though he seldom spoke them aloud. He preferred the company of thought to the company of men. And lately, one question had taken root in his mind like a stubborn weed. What is the Avatar? The stories had always been clear. The Avatar was the bridge between worlds, the master of all four elements, the keeper of balance. But stories were made for children. Sammie sought something deeper, something not wrapped in legend and awe, but in the quiet reality of things. One afternoon, as the rains battered the roofs and the river swelled with anger, Sammie sat by the hearth and turned the question over and over in his mind. He watched the fire, listened to the rain, and felt the heaviness of the earth beneath his feet. The elements were not distant things, they were ever present. The water nourished, the earth bore his steps, the fire warmed him, the air carried his breath. If the Avatar could master them all, what did that mastery mean? It was not merely about bending stone or calling lightning. It was not a spectacle of power. No. Sammie frowned into the fire and understood. To master the elements was first to master oneself. Earth was steadfastness, the refusal to be moved by passing fears. Water was adaptability, the wisdom to yield and to flow. Fire was drive, the will to act when action was required. Air was freedom, the lightness to let go of all that would tether a man's spirit. Sammie saw now that the Avatar was not great because he could control the elements outside himself. He was great because he had first tamed the elements within. Earth could harden a man into stubbornness, just as water could drown him in shifting loyalties. Fire could consume him with anger, and air could make him so rootless he forgot where he stood. The Avatar's task was to balance these forces, to know when to stand firm and when to bend, when to kindle a fire and when to extinguish it, when to root and when to soar. Balance was not a passive state, Sammie realized. It was an active, endless effort. It was choosing, again and again, the middle way between extremes. He stood up from the hearth, feeling the old ache in his knees. The rain had slowed to a whisper against the window. In the fresh silence, Sammie smiled, not because the world had changed, but because he had. Yet understanding was not enough. Thought without action was like a fire left unlit. So Sammie set himself to a quiet vow. Each day, he would tend to the elements within him. When anger boiled in him at the unfairness of his employer, he would remember fire and channel it into calm, determined action rather than useless rage. When hardships came like floods, bills, illness, loneliness, he would be as water, flowing around them, never resisting what he must endure. When stubborn pride tempted him to cling to opinions out of vanity, he would remember earth, but also remember that even the mountain yields to time. When grief or worry clouded his mind, he would summon air, allowing the winds of acceptance to clear his heart. Thus Sammie turned self-mastery into practice. Each moment was a bending, a balancing, a becoming. He did not grow famous, he did not become rich, but he grew strong where it mattered, in the unseen fortress of his own soul. He thought every man must be his own avatar, not in the sense of bending rivers or calling down storms, but in the daily unseen labor of mastering himself. Each argument, each sorrow, each triumph was an element to be understood, not conquered. Each day was a lesson in balance, and each life was a bridge between what is and what could be. The Avatar, then, was not a myth bound to distant heroes. The avatar was a possibility planted in every soul that had the courage to seek harmony amid the chaos. Thus, the question was answered, not with a thunderclap, but with a quiet certainty. The avatar is the master of the self, and thus, the master of the world. If you enjoyed this story, like, subscribe, and share.